afternoon everyone, and today we will talk about Japanese literature. Ayan, so Tokyo is the capital and the largest city, while the major religion of Japan is Buddhism and Shinto. Ayan, Shinto is as old as the Japanese culture, while Buddhism was imported from the mainland in the 16th century. Meron din namang Christian sa Japan, kaya lang kukunti sila at yung mga ibang religions din. Pero majority nga lang is Buddhism and Shinto. Kaya yun yung nakalagay dito sa atin na major religions is Buddhism and Shinto. For the type of government naman, it is constitutional monarchy. And this constitutional monarchy has 3 branches sa mga nakakaalam dyan. They are the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. Ayan. So, next naman, nakikita natin dito yung Mongoloid. Alam niyo ba yung Mongoloid? So, Mongoloid is the dominant ethnic group of Japan. Baka hindi niyo pa yan nalalaman. Ayan. So, ngayon, alam niyo na. For the education naman, virtually the entire population is literate. Ibig sabihin, education is free for all. Parang dito lang sa Pilipinas na it is our right na pumunta sa school, it is our right ng every bata na mag-aral. Gayon din sa Japan. At alam nyo ba, Japan is based on the Chinese reading of the name Nihon or Nippon. Nang ibig sabihin po ay Land of Rising Sun. Parang iisipin ng iba na wala sigurong originality ang Japan kasi they based it on Chinese readings. Pero hindi naman siguro sa ganun, no? Kasi yung meaning ng Nihon, which is Land of Rising Sun, maybe that is the one that attracts them. Para gawin yon as the name of their nation. There is something hidden or there is something good in that sayings or in that word, the Land of Rising Sun. Yan. So, Japan is one of the world's leading industrial and trading nation and the first ASEAN nation to develop a technologically advanced industrial economy. Kahit po na sabihin nating maliit lang yung Japan, kung titignan po natin sa mapa, maliit po talaga ang Japan. But they are very progressive. Parang nasasalamin po dun kung gaano ka-hardworking ang mga Japanese. Even after the World War II, marami pong nasira doon. Wala po silang mapagkukunan ng mga raw materials, but I just can't imagine na they are that fast na mag-recover. And sila ang naging second leading economic power of after the United States. Their country achieved a rapid recovery just after the World War II. So, ganun sila kasipag. Napaka-united po ng Japan. Hanggang sa ngayon, nakikita naman po natin ang progressive, kung gaano sila ka-progressive, kung gaano sila nag-i-improve. Yan. Anyway, let's proceed to our main topic, which is the Japanese literature. So, the literature began to flourish after the development of writing system ng Japan. And the major work of classical Japanese literature is the early 11th century novel. Ano kaya to? This is entitled The Tale of Genji. Ayan, sa mga nakakaalam po ng story of The Tale of Genji, this is considered by many critics to be the first true novel of psychological depth and complexity written anywhere in the world. Ayan. During the Heian period, which takes its name from the establishment of the capital at Heian-kyo, it is the high point of purely indigenous prose fiction. Poetry in the classical 31-syllable waka form flourished between the 10th and 14th century. Yan. And the most famous na waka form is Kokinshu of 905 and Shinkokinshu of 1205. Samantala, nung 17th and 18th century naman, dito yung nangyari, yung peak period for the Bunraku and kabuki theater. So, we will talk about later kung ano yung meron sa bunraku and kabuki theaters. So next, we will proceed to beginnings. The origins of Japanese literature lie in oral poetry and mythology. So yung pinakauna na surviving work in Japanese is the Kojiki. Ayan. It is transformed such myths into written forms, explaining the cosmology of the Japanese and justifying the legitimacy of the ruling house as descendants of the sun goddess. Noong mid-18th century, meron itong Manyoshu. Yan, lumabas itong Manyoshu, which is the compendium of some 4,500 poems. Ang ibig sabihin po ng compendium is compilation. Ayan, so this is the compilation of 4,500 poems in several forms, including both waka and the other longer poems. So, these two works mark the beginning of the native Japanese literature. Ayan. Next, for the 19th century naman, na-develop po ang kana. This is a syllabic writing system better suited to Japanese. And sa early 10th century, dito naman lumabas ang Tales of Issei or Ice. Hindi ko po alam kung paano ito basahin na yan. This is a collection of poems with long prose context. And if we talk about prose, meron po tayong examples dito, which is Tosa Diary. This is a travel diary by a female writer na si Kino Tsurayuki. And marami po tayong female na writer dito katulad ni Murasaki Shikibu na siya yung famous during that time dahil napaka-famous din po ng sinulat niya, which is The Tale of Genji, and si Sei Shonagon na siya din ang sumulat sa The Pillow Book. So those are the female writers of the Japanese. During the period of instability, we have here The Tale of the Hakes, a work of complex mixed oral and written origins that reached its current form in 1371. Samantala, noong 14th century naman, patuloy pa rin po yung classical literary style. At ang pinaka-notable dito is The Confessions of Lady Niho by the imperial consort Lady Niho, and The Essays in Idleness by Buddhist monk na si Yoshida Kenko. Ayan. Meron naman po dito si Ziyami Motokiyo na it says here that no drama was transformed from rural folk entertainment into a highly literary dramatic art that is still frequently performed today. During the Tokugawa period naman, some works include yung mga haiku and the poetic travel accounts of Basho, the plays of Shikamatsu Monzaemon, author of Bunraku Puppet, texts of lasting literary value. The witty fiction of Ihara Saikaku with its dominant themes of lust and greed. We have also here Ueda Akinari and Takizawa Bakin or Bakin siguro to, whose work shows some influence from the flourishing kabuki theater. During the modern period naman, Japanese literature absorbed the influence of Russian, Western European, and American literature while retaining a characteristically Japanese flavor. So, parang kumuha sila ng mga ideas ng mga taga-ibang bansa while retaining yung Japanese flavor na literature nila. So, here comes Chubuchi Shoyo, who published a critical monograph. Itong critical monograph nito is yung tinatawag nilang Shosetsu Shinzui. Grabe, ang hirap basahin. Which introduced many ideas from Victorian literary criticism as a standard for creating a modern style of literature for Japan. Ayan. We have also here Mori Ogai, who wrote novels that were often heavily romantic in mood, some based on his experiences in Germany. Ayan. It's more on romantic siguro, mga love story to. Ayan. Aside from his experiences in Germany, at yung iba naman is from the Japanese history. Samantalang si Shimazaki Tosen, he is best known for the Broken Commandments. Yan, which deals with problems and the problems of discrimination in society. So sa Japan din pala, may nangyayari din na discrimination. Hindi lang dito sa Pilipinas. But then we have here the author na nagsulat patungkol dito. And then we have also here Natsume Soseki. Yan. Si Natsume Soseki assured his enduring public esteem. We have also here Abe Kobo, who produced surrealistic fiction and yung drama na in-influence by the Western avant-garde literature. Ayan. And the next is sina Tanizaki Junichiro and Kawabata Yasunari. We have also here Tanizaki Junichiro and Kawabata Yasunari, a profile writers whose careers spanned the years of the Second World War. At yung writings po nila, yung mga literature nila was translated into English. So, next here is Mishima Yukio. So, Mishima Yukio, whose life of right-wing political activity and eventually public suicide electrified the nation. We have also here Oe Kenzaburo, the 1994 Nobel Prize winner, writes out a post-war and post-Hiroshima sensibility. So those ito yung mga authors natin during the modern period. Feminism has also found a literary voice in Japan. Kanina lang po we have mentioned about the female writers, and through the work of a generation of women writers whose leading voice is probably that of Sawako Ariyoshi. So she is the leader of the woman writers, si Sawako. And the example of Sawako's writings are The Doctor's Wife and the Kabuki Dance. We also mentioned this Kabuki earlier. And ano nga ba ang meron sa Kabuki na to? So, Kabuki is an stylized acting. It is combined with lyrical singing, dancing, and spectacular staging. So, ibig sabihin, ito siguro yung tao na marami siyang talent, marunong na ngang kumanta, marunong ding sumayaw, marunong ding mag-acting. Then, she's perfect for Kabuki dance na ito. And we have here Okuni. Siya yung pinakauna na nag-perform ng Kabuki dances and comic sketches in 1603. Pero noong 1629, medyo na-ban yung mga babae from professional stages. Both Kabuki at saka yung puppet drama na Bunraku. Kaya yung mga lalaki lang yung nagpo-perform noon. Yan. Samantala sa Tokyo naman, sa Tokyo, we have here Ichikawa Danjoro. She is the one who created o gumawa ng bravura acting style for such history plays as Saint Narukami. Samantala dito naman sa Kyoto, kanina lang sa Tokyo, ngayon naman sa Kyoto. Kyoto, where the elegant actor Sakata Tojoro lives. Siya yung gumawa ng gentle comic style for romantic domestic plays such as Love Letters from Licensed Quarters. So, kapag meron tayong male writers for romantic literature. Meron din tayong female. Siguro bagay sila, no? Ayan. Let us also proceed to Bunraku. Ano nga ba itong Bunraku? Ano? It is were adapted for kabuki actors in 18th century. Kakaiba itong Bunraku kasi the gangster plays, yung mga thieves, yung mga murderers, ginagawa nila itong hero. Diba, yung mga movies ngayon is most of the heroes has a good attitude. Pero itong Bunraku na to, yung mga gangsters, yung mga thieves, yung mga murderers are heroes. So, talagang kakaiba. It's a very unique and I want to, parang gusto ko tuloy manood ng ganito, no? Paano kaya to? So, it is where the classical kabuki plays is still performed but commercial theaters in Japan and some modern authors have tried to create new kabuki plays. Yan. For the literary selections, we have here The Tale of Genji, the summary, The Tale of Genji, Episode 1, Paulonia Court, and The Story of an Aged Mother. Etong Tale of Genji po is napakahaba siya. Super duper. Ang daming episode. But I will try hard to explain to you kung ano yung naintindihan ko at sana maintindihan nyo rin. So, before we proceed, itong Tale of Genji was written early in 11th century by a lady of the court. So, I have mentioned this earlier. Siya si Murasaki Shikibu. So, yung bida po natin dito sa The Tale of Genji is si Genji, of course. At yung pinaka-mamahal ni Genji na babae dito ay si Murasaki. Magkapareho lang po sila ng pangalan ng ating authors. Sinabi dito na sa chapter 10, wala si Genji. Parang hindi siya na-mention na sinasuggest ng ibang, yung mga ibang tao na itong novel na to was never finished. Parang may katuloy pa siya. So, this Tale of Genji is valued not only for its picture of court life in Kyoto. Hindi lang niya binibigyang halaga yung court life sa Kyoto, sa Japan, kundi yung mga depth of characterization and stylistic beauty. Kasi itong si Lady Murasaki, pinakita niya or inexplain niya through her novel about the fogs, the clouds, the flowers, and the meditating woman, the mountain, at marami pang iba. Tale of Genji is considered by many to be the world's first novel. So imagine na yung pinakauna pala na novel natin is babae yung nagsulat. So nakaka-proud lang na kahit papaano we have this first lady na nagsulat ng first novel sa buong mundo, wherein galing siya sa Japan. For the Tale of Genji, the summary. Ayan. So, Genji, the hero of the tale, is the son of the emperor and his favorite concubine, Kiritsubo. A Korean sage predicts a brilliant future for Genji, but his mother suffers the jealousy of rivals at court, becomes ill, and dies. So, nung baby pa si Genji, namatay yung kanyang ina. The disjunct emperor becomes obsessed with the tragic story of Yang Kui Fei, but eventually finds another concubine, si Fujitsubo, who reminds him of his former love. Since Genji lacks backing at court, the emperor makes him a commoner, assigning him membership of the non-royal Genji clan. The eldest son of the emperor and Lady Kokiden is made the crown prince. Genji becomes uncommonly handsome and gifted young man, admired by all but feared by Lady Kokiden. So natatakot siya kay Lady Kokiden and her family. The first part of the tale follows his amorous exploits with a variety of ladies in and around Heian-kyu, his friendship with Tono Shujo, and arranged marriage to Tono Shujo's sister Aoi, the birth of his son, and his budding relationship with the young Murasaki. So, Murasaki siya yung minahal ni Genji. honestly, napansin ko lang dito is, parang babaero itong si Genji. Ang dami niyang kapag nagustuhan niya yung isang babae, nakikipag-relation siya kahit na meron na siyang past na relationship, kahit na meron siyang ibang relationship sa ibang lugar. Meanwhile, the old emperor dies and is succeeded by Lady Kokiden's son. Pumalit yung anak ni Kokidens. Genghis Amorous is introduced, cause a scandal at court, and he is forced to leave the capital and live in Suma for several years. During the second part of the tale, Genji meets the ex-governor of Harima and his daughter, the Akashi lady. Genji returns to the city and the emperor abdicates in favor of Fujitsubo's son. Genji position at court is restored and Akashi lady has a baby girl. Genji then goes on a pilgrimage to the Sumi Yoshi shrine to give thanks to the deity for protecting him during the storm of Suma. After his return to capital, he settles down with Murasaki and several other ladies at his Rokujo mansion. During this long section of tale, Genji's influence at court increasingly steadily, and he is preoccupied with the advancement of his children and grandchildren at court. Genji is persuaded to marry the third princess, who gives birth to a son and soon after becomes a Buddhist nun. So, for the chapter 1, the Paulonia Court, I will read it to you again. Isang slide lang po ito. Okay, so the emperor's favorite lady, Kiritsubo, has no longer a strong family backing at court and suffers greatly from the insult of jealous competitors. She bears the emperor a beautiful son, which makes a matter worse as he may one day be a rival to the future crown prince, the emperor's eldest son. Kiritsubo falls ill and dies, so the child is taken in by his grandmother. The emperor is distraught and asked for the boy to be sent back. Eventually, he returns to the palace and the grandmother dies shortly afterward. So, yung binabanggit dito is si Genji, yung anak ni Kiritsubo. So, Korean ambassadors arrive in the capital and predict a brilliant future for the 6-year-old boy. Ito yung nabanggit natin kanina na predict ng isang Korean ambassador. Although of royal blood, the boy has no maternal relatives to support him as a prince at court and is instead made a member of the non-royal Genji clan, henceforth being known as Genji. The emperor's eldest son by Lady Kokiden is made crown prince, and the emperor subsequently finds a new concubine, si Fujitsubo na nabanggit natin kanina, who resembles Kiritsubo but has better family connections. By the end of the chapter, Genji is married off the daughter of the minister of the left, Princess Aoi. Ayan, pinakasalan niya si Princess Aoi, pero yung pinakamamahal niya talaga is si Murasaki. I just noticed na maraming babaeng dumaan sa buhay ni Genji. Aside from Princess Aoi, aside from Murasaki, marami pa, pero still pa rin, loyal pa rin siya kay Murasaki. Let us proceed also to the story of an aged mother by Matsuo Basho. So, I will not read this anymore. Parang ikukwento ko lang yung very, very summary niya, yung pinaka-short na summary niya. So, mayroong mag-ina na mahirap na nakatira sa foot of the mountain. Yung ina niya, matanda na siya. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na siya makapagtrabaho, mahina na siya, parang nakaupo lang siya sa bahay, kumakain lang siya, and mag-isa lang yung anak niya na lalaki. Here comes the governor of yung lugar nila, tapos sabi ng governor, ipapapatay niya daw lahat ng mga matatanda sa lugar nila. Kasi siguro, wala silang kinocontribute na mga bagay sa lugar nila, so kailangan na nilang mamatay. Syempre itong bata na to, mahal na yung mama niya, kaya ayaw niya na mamatay. Kaya lang parang mandatory na dapat na gawin nila kasi yun yung sinabi ng governor nila. So, itong bata na to, nag-isip siya ng kindest mode of death. Pinaghandaan niya yung mga pagkain, yung makakailanganin, yung mga damit ng kanyang mother, tapos plinano niya na ipupunta niya yung mama niya sa mountain, tapos iiwan niya doon. Bahala na siyang mamamatay. Kasi parang prinovide naman niya lahat ng makakailanganin niya. Kesa naman sa papatayin niya through parang saksak, ganun or something bad na pamamaraan. So that day, he lifted his helpless old mother to his back and started on his painful journey up to the mountain. Pero hindi alam ng anak na yung matanda na mama niya is kumukuha siya ng kahoy tapos linalaglag niya sa daan para if ever nababalik yung anak niya is hindi siya maliligaw. Hindi yon alam ng anak niya. And the moment na nakarating na sila doon sa mountain, iiwan na ng anak yung mama niya. Syempre iyak siya ng iyak. And sabi niya dito, "Let not thine eyes be blinded, my son. The mountain road is full of dangers. Look carefully and follow the path which holds the piles of twigs. They will guide you to the familiar way farther down." So, dahil sa sinabi ng kanyang ina, parang biglang parang mas lalo pang umiyak yung anak. Tapos sabi niya, "Mama, hindi na kita iiwan dito. Sabay na lang tayong babalik ulit. Sabay na nating hahanapin yung daan na pinanggalingan natin." Sabi niya. So, binalik niya yung mama niya, tinago niya para hindi makita ng governor. Tapos, siya na yung nagpro-provide ng mga pagkain niya secretly. So, medyo matagal-tagal na rin. Tapos, napansin niya na walang nagche-check kung talaga bang namatay yung mama niya. So, the moment na he feels comfortable, then itong governor naman na to, sinabi ng governor na gagawa sila ng rope of ashes, which is parang ang hirap na gawin, kaya parang natakot yung mga tao. And here comes the boy, sinabi niya ito sa kanyang mama, na yung matanda na mama niya. And dahil magaling itong mama niya, nag-isip siya ng nag-isip, and then tinulungan niya yung anak niya, she finds way para gawin yung rope of ashes. And then, nagawa nga nila yung rope of ashes and present nung anak niya sa governor yung rope of ashes. And namangha yung governor. Sabi niya, paano mo to nagawa? Sabi niya. And at that moment, parang nabigyan ng chance na sabihin ng lalaki yung katotohanan about sa kanyang mother. And sinabi nga niya na buhay pa yung mama niya, na siya yung nagbigay ng idea tungkol sa rope of ashes. And at that moment, parang natouch yung governor. Tapos, nag-meditate siya, and then sa oras na yon parang nawala yung pagka-cruel nung governor na yon at nagbago na siya. So, the end. Japanese folk tale na to is a story of an unkind ruler who issues cruel orders. Napansin naman natin to kanina, 'di ba, sa governor, including one demand that all old folks are to be abandoned and left to die. Parang imposible naman na mangyari yon, right? So, Basho tells a poignant story about a mother and her son and their love for one another. We proceed now to haiku. So, this is a Japanese verse in which 17 syllables are arranged in lines 5, 7, 5 syllables. This emerged during 16th century and was developed by Basho in a refined medium of Buddhist and Taoist symbolism. So, naaalala ko pa when I was in high school, we encountered this haiku, and naaalala ko talaga, it is 5, 7, 5 syllables with 3 lines. 3 linya lang siya, at as in gumawa talaga kami ng own haiku namin noon. So, It says here that haiku consists of 3 lines, with the first and the last lines having 5 moras and the middle line having 7. Nasabi ko na to kanina, no? Since the moras do not translate well into English, the haiku has been adapted to where syllables are used as moras. Ayan. Haiku poems started as a popular activity in 19th to 12th centuries in Japan called tangka. Tinatawag nila itong tangka noong 19th to 12th century, pero nag-emerge ito noong 16th century. Tinawag lang nila itong 19th, tangka, at naging popular ito noong 19th to 12th century. Tangka was progressive poem where one person would write the first 3 lines with 5-7-5 structure, and the next person would add a section with the 7-7 structure. The chain would continue in this fashion. So the first verse was called a hoku, a set of the mood for the rest of the verses. At alam nyo ba, the word haiku is derived from the word huku. Ayan. Haiku, huku. Next, we have here Basho, na yung real name niya is Matsuo Mune Fusa. But etong Basho na to, parang nickname niya lang or yung tawag nila sa kanya. Ayan. He is the finest writer of Japanese haiku during the formative years of genre. So, I will show you some examples of his works. Andito lang siya, oh. Yan. So, I will read it for you. Many, many things they bring up to mind, cherry blossom. So, what image do you see here? For me, of course, it's a cherry blossom. It's a flower which symbolizes happiness. Ayan. Dito naman sa baba, we have here the old pond, frog jump in, water sound. So, what image can we see here? It's a frog that jumps in an old pond and the sound of the water, right? So if you have any idea about this, you can explain it later. And kasi yun lang talaga yung naintindihan ko dyan. Another haiku writer is Iyosa Buson. So he worked on 2 styles of art, haiga and buji naga. Nagsulat siya ng 2,100 haikus nung nasa Kyoto siya. So, the way Basho depicted nature and humanistic ways in his poems is seen in both Buson's poems and paintings. So, sinasabi ng iba na walang originality itong si Buson's kasi kinukuha niya lang yung idea niya from Basho's haiku. Pero, most of the people, sinasabi nila na na-inspire lang siya kay Basho, kaya siya gumawa ng mga haikus. And majority of the people, sinabi ko nga kanina, says that his poem were diverse enough, rich in imagery, clearly depicting fine movements and sensual appearance of thing, dynamic with wider landscapes, lyrical, sensitive to human affairs, romantic with hidden stories, graceful, and long time conscious. So, kahit na medyo may pagkakapareho sila ni Basho, but he has also his own uniqueness. So, I will read for you some of his work. We have here, a summer river being crossed, how pleasing, with sandals in my hands. So, this is like a vacation na parang yung author nito or yung character dito is nag-e-enjoy siya during his vacation sa river. Ayan, yun lang yung naintindihan ko dyan. For the other examples of haiku, we have here the authors, si Kobayashi Isa. Sabi niya dito, "Oh, snail, climb Mount Fuji, but slowly, slowly." Ayan. The image that we can see here is a snail climbing the Mount Fuji. So, ang cute lang na i-imagine na yung snail na ang bagal-bagal maglakad, aakyat siya sa Mount Fuji. So, na-curious ako kung ilang kilometers kaya yung trina-travel ng snail sa isang araw. Tapos yung sinabi ni Google, around 79.2 feet per day. So, wala pang kilometers. Feet pa lang yung nilalakbay niya sa isang araw. Samantalang yung Mount Fuji is, yung elevation niya is 3,776 meter. Oh my gosh, kailan kaya makakarating yung snail sa Mount Fuji na yan? Baka mamamatay na hindi pa siya nakarating. Yan. So, that is the haiku of Kobayashi Isa. Samantala si Mosaoka Shiki, sabi dito, night and once again, the while I wait for you, cold wind turns into a rain. Parang isang tao na naghihintay ng wala. How about you? What's your opinion about this? So, let's proceed to Natsume Soseki. Sabi dito sa haiku niya, the crow has flown away, swaying in the evening sun, a leafless tree. So, the image that I've seen here is a crow na lumipad and a leafless tree. Ano kayong ibig sabihin nito? What is the hidden meaning from this haiku? Ayan, can you share it with me later? For the modern haiku, maraming poets, Western poets na hindi sumusunod sa 5-7-5 pattern. Ibig sabihin, parang gusto nila ng freestyle na haiku. Pero sinusunod pa rin nila yung 3 lines. Kaya lang, hindi nila sinusunod yung 5-7-5 pattern. Siguro nahihirapan sila. Hindi naman siguro, no? So, let us read some of their haiku poems. Sabi dito, from across the lake, past the black winter trees, faint sound of a flute. Sabi ni Richard Wright. And for Nick Virgilio naman, yung haiku niya is, lily, out of the water, out of itself. Siguro, di ba yung lily kasi is nasa ibabaw siya ng water, kaya siguro binanggit dito na out of the water. And yung flower niya is nasa ibabaw, of course, ng leaves niya. So, sabi dito, out of itself. So, that's just my opinion. So, you can share also your opinion. Actually, we have a lot of haiku here. So, if you wish to read it, feel free to visit our handout. So, actually, pahapyaw lang po yung ginawa ko dito. Hindi ko siya inisa-isa, hindi ko siya in-explain lahat. So, if you have a question, magtulong-tulungan po tayo na sagutin yan. And, tanungin din po natin si ma'am kasi I'm sure naintindihan niya to lahat. So, that's all and thank you for listening. Back to you, ma'am.